Kagalosh Boker Or Masechet Menahot Daf Yomi Daf Lamed Vav Amud 36a1 says the Gemara Amar Rav Hasta, says Rav Hasta Sach ben Tefila letfila. If a person comes and he speaks between putting on tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel rosh, that's called Sach. You know what Sach is? Ledaber, like Peh Sach, the mouth which is talking, right? Peh Sach. So he says Sach. Yeah, he says. Right, the is ben tefila l'tefila is going to be chozer umvarech. You have to make another beracha again, right? Sach in lo sach lo. So it's mashma only if you speak. If you don't speak, you don't make another beracha. So says the Gemara, Vashalach Rav Chia bered Rav Huna, Mishmed Rav Yochanan, sent to Rav Chia bered Rav Huna, right? In the name of Rav Yochanan, right? He says, Al tefila shel yad omer Baruch Asher kedeshanu mitzvotav etzivanu laniach tefillin. Al tefillin shel rosh, you say Baruch Asher kedeshanu mitzvah tefillin. So it's written mefurash that what? That you do make a bracha. You make laniach tefillin on the yad, and you say al mitzvah tefillin on the rosh. So Abai v'Rava Damna Tevayu, Abai v'Rava, they both said lo sach mevarech achat. If you don't speak, you're going to make one bracha. Sach, if you're going to speak mevarech shtaim, you're going to make two berachot. Okay. So Abai v'Rava Damna Tevayu, Abai v'Rava both say lo sach mevarech. If you do not speak, you're going to be mevarech achat. If you were sach mevarech shtaim, so it makes sense. Meaning, if right now you're going to come and you're going to not speak, so you only make one bracha, laniach tefillin. If not, then you're going to make two brachot. So says the Gemara Tana, Sach ben tefila letfila. If right now you're going to come and you're going to speak between one and another, right? So therefore, what's going to happen? So he comes and he says, right? He comes and he says as follows. He says, Sach ben tefila letfila, avera hi biyado, v'chozer alea me'orchei milchama. Right? Imagine, it's an avera, he has to go back from the war. So imagine a guy goes out to war, he's going to have to come back, right, from the war. Okay? What happened? Yes. Exactly. When he comes and he says, are you afraid? Are you afraid of the avirot shebiyado? So Tana, we learn keshu meniach shel yad, right? Ve'achar kach meniach shel rosh. So the first thing that you put on is the yad, and then you put on the rosh. U'shul choletz, but when you take it off, you first take off the shel rosh, and then you take off the shel yad. Says, it's in Sotah?
Yes, because what you
So says the Gemara, we just spoke about going back from the war. Now it says Tana, we learned in a Braita. Keshu meniach. So first, the first thing that you put on is yad, and then the rosh, and then so it says Gemara, bish lemashu meniach yad, and then afterwards rosh. Tichtiv ukshatam leot alidecha vehadav. It's the order of the pasuk. The pasuk is first on the hand and then on the head. But when you're taking it off, why are you taking off the rosh first and then afterwards? How do you know that? Samar Rabba says Ravuna Spirali. It says in the Amarkad, the pasuk says, "Vayulu tutvo benenecha kol zman shebenenecha." Yushtaim. Meaning, as long as it's on your head, you always have to have two. So therefore, if you're going to take off the yad first, you don't have two. So the only way to have two always is always the first, the hand, and then the rosh. So now when I want to take it off, I cannot take off the hand first, because if I take off the hand, now it's not two. So therefore, v'yud benenecha, it has to be benenecha, it has to be shtaim, kol zman shezeh benenecha. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. Tefillin. When do you make the bracha on them? When you're going to put them on. What does that mean? What happens if you want to travel? And you're afraid maybe they're going to get lost. Put them on even in the middle of the night. When it comes the proper time, yeah, you're looking up at the proper time, right? What happens? You move them around a little bit. You make a bracha. Until when are you going to come and you're going to, right? Until when? Right, he says, "Ad matay rashai lashid." Right, until when? Ad shetishka achama, till shkiyat achama. Rabbi Yaakov argues and he says, "No, ad shetichle regel milashuk." Until right, even after redet chashecha, even afterwards, there's no problem whatsoever. Right? V'chachamim omrim chachamim say, right? Chachamim argue and they say, "Ad zman shena," until you go to sleep. Yeah, until you go to sleep. Right? So that's why. So he comes and he says, "Umodim chachamim v'Rabbi Yaakov." So now modim chachamim to be Yaakov sheim chaltzan latzed lebezeh. But if you already took them off, or lekaved b'mechatz v'shakar chama, now it's shkia shuv v'nechozah. Meaning like this: you already come and you put on the tefillin, right? On mincha latzef tanit.
You can stay with them until the night.
I stay with them lechatchila until the night, 100%. Yeah, 100%, 100%, 100%. It's Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch. Until after Tzet Kochavim, do whatever you want. You don't have to take them off. You just learned Gemara. What did you tell it as well? What?
I thought it was only on Kippur that we allowed to have the talit Even if the night is.
No, what's the difference between talit and tzitzit?
The moment of
What's the bracha? The bracha. What's the difference of the bracha and the tzitzit? The talit is like tzitzit. If I come and I make a bracha, right, and I come and I put on the talit, I could keep the talit all day, even until nighttime. The same thing with the tefillin.
But it's not practical.
There's a mitzvah. There's not a mitzvah. There's an inyan al pi Kabbalah that to take it off. But that's Kabbalah. That's not halacha. Halacha, chas v'shalom, shulchan aruch. As long as you put it on before Shekiyah, you leave it on. And that's what I do. Right? I don't come and start running to the. It's so funny. They come and they start running, take it off because they're doing a pi Kabbalah and everything else they don't do a pi Kabbalah. Because they don't know halacha. Halacha. You learned halacha? You learned it? There you go. You have it here. Yeah? Yeah? The Gemara comes and he tells you. Shh, 1 second. The Gemara comes. 1 minute.
I told you the other day.
The what? Umodim Chachamim v'Rabbi Yaakov. Right? He's. What? Some people don't even do Sudah Shel Shida. What do you want? Modim Chachamim v'Rabbi Yaakov she'im chalatzan, the second that you took it off for the beta kiset, right, or to go to the beta minachatz, and then it was shkiach chama. Now you don't put it on again because once you take it off, that's it. So Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman halacha is like Rabbi Yaakov. You understand? Halacha is like Rabbi Yaakov. Yeah. What does that mean? Rav Chasta v'Rabbi Huna metzalu behu beurta. They were mitpalel on the nighttime of Tfilat Arvit, right? When they used to be mitpalel Tfilat Arvit, keshiyu lovshim tefillin. Right, just like Rabbi Yaakov. That means, how do we paskin? One more time. Gemara is a Gemara. When the Gemara says that the halacha zakat, that's how we usually paskin. Right? If the Gemara does not say what's halacha, so then you have to go to the Tur Bet Yosef and you have to see how do the Rishonim paskin. Right? And then that's already halacha. Okay, fine. But if the Gemara says it, that's it. It's halacha. Usually it's very, very.
Never negotiate.
Yeah, it's not negotiated. Meaning, if the Gemara says halacha is like this, it usually, unless there's a stira and it doesn't make sense. All of a sudden, no, the halakha is not like that. The Gemara said halakha is like that. So if the halakha is like Rabbi Yaakov, what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to pray arvit with talit and tefillin. So we just said that the halakha is you're allowed to pray with talit and tefillin. Yeah, al pi Zohar, that's something else. What? Night, laila. ודאי. אור של הבשר. Or psachim. Tanit also, but also psachim. How do you start? How do you start psachim? Or shel ha'ba'asar. We're talking about the night of the 14th. That's when you do b'dikat chametz. Or orta. Orta is nighttime. Yeah. Ze urta. No. That's what it's called. The night of is called the urta. By the or. That's how it is. Okay, now you come to this. 1 second. There are some people that say, En halacha, Rabbi Yaakov. Yeah, you heard. So now here, the Ika Damni says halacha is not like Rabbi Yaakov. Okay, so says the Gemara, Lamed Vav Amud 36b. V'harav chasta v'rabba Rav Huna mitzad beruta. How do you say not? How do you say that really be'emet halacha is not like Rabbi Yaakov? They used to pray with their talit and tefillin. So he says how pliga they argue. Right, which means this anagav Rav Chasta and Rav Huna, they actually argues on halacha of Rav Nachman. So he says, "Umi amar Rabba bar Rav Huna hachi." Does Rav Huna say that? V'hamar Rav Huna safek chashicha safek lo chashicha. When a person has a doubt whether it's going to be chashicha lo chashicha, lo choletz, don't take off your tefillin, velo meniach, but don't put them on. Havadai chash, but if it's 100% nighttime, choletz, you do take it on, take it off. So he says, no, hatam be'erev Shabbat itman. There it's Friday night. Friday night, you have to take it off. Why? Because of Hilchot Shabbat. Has nothing to do with nighttime. You understand? They're two different halachot. You got halacha of a regular nighttime. Let's say ta'anit. It could be the Motzei Tisha B'Av. It could be but on Tisha B'Av, everyone puts it on, right? Or it could be a ta'anit. The Moroccans put it on, right? Kippur never put it on. Yeah.
No, if you put it after.
No, but you can't put it on. I mean, Chav Kippur. You're not allowed. Again, that's what I just said. It has to be either. For sure not. Minchav Kippur, since when before? Erev. You tell me Minchav Kippur. Minchav Kippur is
As I said, if you keep it on from.
Okay, no, it's the same thing, right? Again, Erev Shabbat Itma. So my Kasavar, what are we talking about? Kasavar, if you're going to tell me now Laila is man tefillin, so Shabbat Zaman. So if you're going to tell me Laila is tefillin, so it's man tefillin, so to Shabbat man tefillin. Kasavar Shabbat is loves man tefillin, so Laila Nami loves man tefillin, right? So he comes and he says like this. He says, why? The same place where we exclude Shabbat from Tefillin is the same place where we exclude Laila from Tefillin. Why? The Tanya we learned in the Braita. V'shamarta et hachuka zot lemuadah. Miyamin yamima. Does that sound familiar? Right? So if you come on time, they say this right before Hudu. Right? So it says, "V'shamarta et hachukah azol muadah miyamim yamima." What does that mean? Right? So what happens is, he says, if you're going to watch over the chukah, right? Yamim yamima. Yamim velo lelot. He says yamim velo lelot. What does that mean? Davka days and not night times. Miyamim velo kol yamim. Davka days and not all days. What about prat? LeShabbatov yomim tovim. Divrei Rabbi Yosef Galilei. These are the words we say. That means Rabbi Yosef Galilei is learning from the exact same pasuk. Lemiute also Shabbat and Yamim Tovim, and also lemiute lelot. The bediuk oto pasuk, bediuk oto limud. Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, "Lo ne'eman chukazo ela lePesach bilvad." He comes and he says the pasuk is not talking about tefillin at all. The pasuk is talking about Korban Pesach. So since the pasuk is talking about Korban Pesach, zelo kashur bichlal. So because of that, he comes and he says, but according to Rabbi Yosef Galilei, it's exact same pasuk, which is teaching you the same halachot of Shabbat and the same halachot of Laila. So what's the difference then between Shabbat and Laila? That you said Laila, you could leave it on, but Shabbat, you have to take it off. Why? So Nafkalei, he says, Mehecha de Nafkalei Rabbi Akiva. But really, the reason why is because he learns it from Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya Rabbi Akiva Omer, Yachol yaniach adam tefillin b'Shabbat. Maybe I'm going to put on tefillin on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Talmud Omar, vaya leot al yadecha u'totovo b'neinecha. Mi shetzrichin ot. Only if you need an ot. Yatsu Shabbatov yamin tovim shem gufan ot. Meaning like this. The tefillin is an ot.
So somebody who has have the brit.
Very good. We're going to speak about that because it's also the same thing. That the brit is also an ot, right? But you cannot have three otot. So therefore, you have the brit and then you have the tefillin. But you cannot do another ot, which is going to be the Shabbat and Yom Tov. But Shabbat and Yom Tov itself is going to be an ot. So therefore, you come and he says. So therefore, because of that, that's why you don't put it on the night. That means like this. Really, by nighttime, you're allowed to leave it on according to the Shita. Well, I thought that you learned it from Yamim Yamima that you're not allowed to because you're not allowed to have it on Shabbat. He said, no. Shabbat has nothing to do with that. Shabbat is because of what? Is because of the ot, and we don't need an ot, right? Ki oti beni uvenechem, right? This is a right ki yashmin Shabbat, right? Oti, the Shabbat in itself is an ot, so therefore the Yom Tov is also an ot. So he says, Amar Bilazar says Bilazar, kol maniach tefillin chashkiyat rechama over ba'aseh. If you're going to come and you're going to put on tefillin after Shekiah, you're going to be over on a positive commandment. For Rabbi Yochanan Amar over belavi, it's a negative commandment. Now why? Lema b'Rabbi Avin b'Rabbi Elai kabim palgei. Maybe the machlok is between Rabbi Avin and Rabbi Elai. Tamar Rabbi Avin Amar Rabbi Elai says Rabbi Avin kol makom shenemar hishamer pen ve'al. If it says hishamer pen or al, it's a negative commandment. Eno ela lo taseh. So when it says v'shamarta. The Shamarta is Hishamer, which is a negative commandment, right? The more Ilen the Rabbi Avin. So obviously one holds like it, or more Leil. Meaning, if you're going to say V'shamarta techukah zol moadim mima, so that means it's a positive commandment. But if you hold that Hishamer is a negative commandment, because Hishamer pen ve'al is lo taseh, so then it's a negative commandment. So that's what they're arguing with. So says the Gemara, no. Everyone agrees with Rabbi Avin and the name of Rabbi Elai that basically that any times that it says Hishamer pen ve'ala means a negative commandment. So what's the machaloket over here? More savar Hishamer de lav. Right, love. V'hishamer de'aseh, aseh. He says, umor savar, hishamer de'aseh, nami love. We mean like this. When you have hishamer, and it's on a negative commandment, so then it's a negative commandment. But when you have an hishamer on a positive commandment, it's considered a positive commandment. But more savar, no. That hishamer is always a negative commandment, even if it's going on a positive commandment. So one more time. If I come and I tell you a negative commandment, do not do something. And then I come and I tell you, by the way, hishamer to shameru, be careful. So therefore, according to everybody, it's a negative commandment. Why? Because it's on a negative commandment. So if it's on a negative commandment, and now I tell you hishamer pen ve'al, it's a negative commandment on a negative commandment according to everybody. Fine. What happens though if it's a positive commandment? You have to put on tefillin. It's not an avera. It's not that don't do something. It's put on tefillin. And now the Gemara, the Torah tells you hishamer. So therefore, according to the first opinion, since it used the terminology shamer, but it's going on an aseh, it's an aseh. It's not a lo taseh. But it's not a lo taseh. That's the first shita. But the second shita says no. No. One more time. Hishamer pen ve'al is obviously a mitzvah. Usually, we always learn hishamer pen ve'al is always a lo taseh. It's always a negative commandment. Because when I tell you, be careful, don't do something, you're going to say, yeah, but Rabbi, you didn't tell me not to do it. I told you, hachmor. Right? What did I say? I said, I told you, be careful. What does that mean? I told you to be careful. It means do not do it. So what happens? So a person has to be careful then, because he said v'yishamer or pen. Don't do it lest, right? Or ve'al. Don't do that. So when the rabbi comes and he tells you don't do something, don't do it. So it's a negative commandment. However, though the machloket is going to be when you use that terminology on a positive commandment. Does it ofech et zeh to also a positive commandment, or no? Or is it going to say a negative commandment? V'amar Rabbi Elazar, it's a machloket. V'amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, im leshomran mutar. If you think that you're right now you're going to put them on because you're careful that you don't want them to get ruined, it's mutar to put them on. V'amar Ravina says, Divna kamed Ravashi. I was sitting in front of Ravashi, right? V'chashach. And it became nighttime. Finiach tefillin, and he put on tefillin. Ve'amri le, and they said, "Shomram kabaya lo lemon." Well, you have to watch them. Amali, he says, yes. V'chazite ledate telav l'shor. I saw that he wasn't shomer otam. But kasavar halacha and morin keber. He felt that it was halacha that laila is man tefillin, but we don't teach it to people. What does that mean? That means even though halacha is that you could put on tefillin at nighttime, but we don't teach it publicly to people. That's called halacha ve'en morin keber. Meaning that the halacha and right, we do not paskin like that. Right, which means that if the people are going to ask us, we're not going to be mefarsim it. Do you know that you're obligated to touch the tefillin every single moment? Right, that's why people come and they do the yeah. So he says tefillin. Right, he says bechol shah. Right, he thinks that bechol shah is every second. So that's why bechol shniya. Okay, right. So he says kal vachomer ela shniya. So he says kal vachomer mitzitz. Right, and then they did a gezerah shava. They were makish that the tefillin to the sidur to the book to the this to the table to everything. Yeah.
The show.
When is the show? Yeah.
Tefillin with the tzitzit together
Okay, fine.
In the Greek synagogue, there was somebody in front of me. He has the picture of an old man, the picture of his wife. Certainly.
No.
So now I understand. Maybe it could be that it was hidden in the books. Okay, now I understand. Now we understand everything. Fine. Kal vachomer from the tzitz. So it's a kal vachomer from the tzitz. So he says, juxtaposition. Hekesh. Yeah. Umat tzitz she'em bo ela askara achat. He says the tzitz only had one name of Hashem. So he says, Amrat Torah, the Torah says, Vayal mitzchot tamid, that it has to be always there, Shalot tasiach dato bimenu, kam tefillin, shish ben askarot arbe, halacha kam ocham. Meaning, if the tzitz only has one name of Hashem, because it says the name of Hashem, right, on the tzitz, right, and if it only says one name of Hashem, and you always have to remember about it, kal vachomer beno shel kal vachomer, right, that the tefillin, that you always have to remember it, because look how many askarot. Now I understood, you kiss every askara? Meaning every time it's mentioned the name of Hashem, you're going to kiss that amount of times. We learned the right. Al yadecha. What does it mean now? Right? Ukshartam leot al yadecha. Zo small. What does that mean? You have to put it on the left hand. Because we always say etz bayad and also. One second. Why? Do you say that it's going to be smaller or going to be mean? Tamulomar af yadi yasta eretz. We need to b'chal shamayim. Right? Ve'omer, and it says yada la yated tishlachna v'mina lal mutamelim. And it also says, which means that the fact that it said yadecha, so therefore the fact that it's mentioning yad without saying yamin, but usually it always just says yamin, right? Vimina. Right? So the fact that it doesn't say yamin and it says dafka yad, so that means obviously it has to be small. So right, Rabbi Yosef Chorem Omer, no. Matzinu yamin shenikra yad. Where? It says yad yimino. So therefore, always it's going to be. So therefore, it does say yad yimino, and it's still called yamin. So therefore, he wants to say that it's not there. So obviously, tomorrow we're going to have to say why be'emet doesn't mean that yad.